Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Before we get into this one, if you could just hit that big red button down below, that would massively help me out. But today's video is another episode of Dream Teams, and I know a lot of you are enjoying this series, so make sure you smash that like button down below as well. Today, we've got the big man, Just Joe Football Show, on the channel for the first time, actually.
Yeah.
I've not really done guests before until this series, but I'm enjoying chatting to people on my channel about this. And yeah, you looking forward to it, Joe?
I am, mate. Yeah, I thought I was never going to get the call up. You know what I mean? It was,
it's only episode 3. If people haven't noticed, and this is going to offend Joe, I mean, I called Joe old on the Lockie episode.
Really?
I'm doing older, younger, okay. so that it mixes up a bit, because obviously people have got different memories. If it's like Lockie, Ollie, and somebody else around that age 3 times in a row, then they're all going to be picking bloody League One players. Yeah, so it mixes it up a bit. Yeah. But yeah, as always, and just people in the audience, listen to this bit, right? This bit's important. It is the person's favorite players, not the best players. So you can't tell them that they're wrong for picking a certain player, because it's personal opinion, memories tied to that player, and growing up watching Leeds and all that sort of thing, which is why this series is good, because it gets an insight into sort of how people became a Leeds fan and what they grew up watching. So yeah, do you want to launch right into it, Joe? What formation are you going to do? I know you said you were struggling to get all the players in.
There's certain... I really like my centre-backs.
Yeah.
I really like my defenders. So I wanted to try and get 3, and I was thinking, right, do I do 3 with wing-backs? And then I was going to go, do you know what? I'm just going to go 3 and no wing-backs. Just go, expect the wingers to do it all. But to be honest, I've gone old school and just gone 4-4-2, mate, to be honest.
Fair enough. It's a good way to get a lot of the players that you're liking. And yeah, it's tried and tested, isn't it? So, all right, then let's go straight into it then. Who have you gone for with your goalkeeper?
I think this will be picked quite a lot. I had to go Nigel Martin. Growing up, he was the one for sure. Obviously, was I think, like, if David Seaman's not about, he's obviously England's number 1. He did get quite a few caps, I think, in the end. But yeah, for me, Nigel Martin would have to go in there. I think arguably probably the best goalkeeper we've had. I know there's Sprake and others that are before my time, but I think a lot of people would go for Nigel Martin. Yeah.
I know that Joe was saying as well, it was like he was sort of a good distributor before that was really too much of an important thing that goalkeepers had. He was very, very good at passing the ball, and it's not something that goalkeepers necessarily had as a requirement back then, but he was able to do it. And also, I remember, I think I said this on Joe's episode as well, I think I had a shirt, or my brother had a shirt with Nigel Martin on the back, and it's not very often you go for a goalkeeper on the back of your shirt, is it? So and I think he must have been something special.
Yeah, and like you were saying there, it's like, I don't want to sound like old. I'm only 35 and I'm like back in my day, but they were proper goalkeepers though. They were proper goalkeepers, the likes of Seaman, Neville Southballs, even that guy Schmeichel, you know, these were top level goalkeepers, and Nigel Martin was well in that conversation when he was kicking around. So yeah, for me, it's an easy pick for Nigel Martin.
Yeah, and it was good memories and good times associated with when he played as well, wasn't there? So that always helps as well. And when somebody's playing in a team that are playing well, they always play better, and you remember them more fondly, don't you? Yeah, so for sure. We're going for 4-4-2, aren't we? So let's go from left to right. So who's your left back?
It has to be Ian Hart. Especially playing career. I mean, listen, any dead ball in my team and anywhere on the pitch, he's putting it on the sixpence. For my centre backs, for my strikers, you know, even just like direct free kicks, you know, he's finding the back of the net. I think Ian Hart was a top left back, you know, a top left back in his day, and like I say, up there, you know, outside of David Beckham, during the night, he's probably the best set piece taker, one of, if not the, you know, and there weren't as many left footers as well. It didn't seem like, anyway. It didn't seem like, maybe I'm rewriting history, but he had a wand of a left foot, and, you know, regardless of what you think of him after the fact, when he was playing, Ian Hart was phenomenal for Leeds United.
Yeah, he could absolutely belt a football, and like you say, set pieces. Sometimes it's like, it's always like a little bit of a thing, isn't it, when you get a centre back or a left back or a right back, whatever, who takes free kicks, and it's a bit like different in it, because usually it's like a midfielder that takes it. But when you get like, do you remember when David Luiz used to take free kicks for Chelsea? Like, the centre back, and he just leathers it as hard as he can. And Ian Hart had the technique as well, didn't he? And
unreal.
Yeah, boy, was he good from free kicks, and a quality left back as well. Yeah, so great choice to have Ian Hart in there. Let's go for your left centre back then.
So I've not really thought about which side they're playing at, to be honest. I've just put 2 centre backs in there.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I've had to go with Jack Charlton for me. Obviously, I never had the luxury of seeing him play, but being part of the '66 World Cup team, being part of the Revy era, he's and he was just an awesome person. When you see what he did at the Irish national team and stuff as well, and I just think for me, he's one of the most important figures during that Revy era for me. And
in Leeds United history.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously he passed not too long ago now, and he's from up this way where I live now, as well in Blythe. So he's well thought of up here as well, as you can imagine. So I have to put Jack Charlton in, for sure. And I just think he's a monster. He's a monster. Obviously others will mention Hunter and stuff, and I get that, but for me, having not seen them play, had I have seen Hunter more regular, I'd probably say he's the guy. But Charlton just stands out for me, maybe because of his stature, and obviously Bobby being his brother and stuff as well. Having 2 brothers in the England setup, but the fact that Jack was on the right side of the Pennines, leaves something for me as well. So I would go Jack Charlton, mate.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it's like a complete legend of the club, and the amount of appearances that he made. It was 700 and something, or
something like that, mate.
Something like that, and the longevity of that career, and for somebody as well who, I know Joe told this story in his. But I'll just quickly tell you that when apparently they used to go on their pre-season training and go for a run round Leeds, and Jack Charlton would apparently hold off at the back, and once they'd all gone, he'd stop for a smoke, get on the bus, get back round, and then join the back of the group again. And that bloke played like 700 times for Leeds and still managed to be unbelievable.
And when you talk about it like that, like, you remember like in more recent times how like amazed we were that Click played 90 consecutive games, and that was such a big thing. And then you consider what they were doing back then with much worse conditions, a football that was basically like pig's bladder, you know what I mean? Their toes must have been wrecked with them.
As soon as it was wet, those balls got so much more heavy, and
he's edging it, you know what I mean? And he's edging them things, so it's mad. So it's insane that they were able to do that and still drink and smoke, which they don't do nowadays, So top. Just class, just Leeds. It feels Leeds, Jack Charlton,
it does, absolutely. Incredible longevity, incredible contribution to England winning the World Cup, and Leeds winning everything that they did under Don Revie. So it's got to be him, hasn't it? What about the other centre back then?
Lucas Radebe, the Chief. I think as centre back partners go, there's not many better than them two, to be honest.
That's class, to be fair, isn't
it? Lucas. He has to go in there. I think again in a period where there were so many great centre backs in the 90s. Man United had what they had, and you had the likes of Desai and stuff at Chelsea. Radebe was our star turn in that centre back role for me. Really stood out. I think there's a story where Man United were interested, etc., and he was never going to make that move. And I just think, the Chief has to be up there, and he still obviously holds Leeds close to his heart. I tell you a story actually. When Leeds got promoted this time around, Tash at All Leeds TV she'd done like a documentary. It's not actually come out yet, but she'd interviewed a lot of people, and she had a lot of people's numbers, and she rang the Chief. I was able to celebrate with him over the phone at Tash's house in Leeds, which was
and he answered.
Yeah, he answered straight up, because she rang someone else and they didn't answer. But because we'd just been on Sky Sports I had the binoculars and stuff.
And
and after that, she then rang a few people. And the chief answered, and I mean, it was only a short call. He probably just answered it and then thought, he just went, yay, you know. But we were like, hey! I was like,
yeah, still class though,
to the
isn't it?
chief, you know what I mean? So yeah, he has to go in there as well. Yeah, for sure.
Do you think he was a player that was a bit underrated by opposition fans?
Yeah, I think
because
so,
I don't think he gets talked about, does he, in the same breath as some of the sort of iconic centre backs of the Premier League era? Because they always talk about you. I know they talk about your Vidic and your Ferdinand and John Terry and stuff, and they probably were a little bit of a level above. But in terms of the best of the rest, he's in the conversation. Yeah.
That's the thing, and I think, you know, we speak about them teams that were doing it, and Leeds were up there back then, you know. Leeds were up there back then. Okay, not quite at the top, but we were close to. And Lucas for me was our star centre back. I think you need to have a good spine, and I feel that we did have that, like Martin in goal, Radaby in front, you know, and you know, the captain at the time as well. So he probably doesn't get the flowers that he deserves, mate, you know, because ultimately, if we're being honest, it was all just Man United, Arsenal at that time, and then Chelsea entered, and now we've got a top six. So, you know, I'm not surprised he doesn't get spoken about, but he definitely should be. Definitely,
it's got to go down as one of the best bargains of all time as well in terms of Leeds United play, because obviously he only came in with Phil Masinga as sort of almost as someone to keep him company, and to do what he did is incredible and such a good value for money signing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not so much amongst Leeds fans, it's actually well known, of course, but it's quite a good quiz question for those that are not Leeds fans when you say, do you know why the Kaiser Chiefs are called the Kaiser Chiefs? And it's like, well, it was Lucas Radaby's team, the Kaiser Chiefs in South Africa. So, yeah, it shows how much, you know, he's ingrained within Leeds United pop culture, that we have a band that's well thought of, that's named after the team that he came from, you know what I mean? So, yeah, amazing stuff.
Yeah, very impactful in his time at Leeds United, and like we say, probably underrated by opposition fans, but Leeds fans certainly keep him close to their heart as an incredible footballer. It seems like an incredible bloke as well.
Sure.
Okay, then let's move on to the right back position. Who have you gone for?
I've gone with Gary Kelly, one club man. I think many people will have him in there. I don't think he gets the flowers he deserves, if I'm honest, as well. And the mad thing is, you know, he's still, maybe from the club, he's still heavily involved within the Leeds United fan base, you know. You see him on Facebook. You see, he was at the game yesterday.
Oh, was he?
I've seen someone on Facebook, you know, on the way into the ground with him. And I know, you know, he speaks to Jack and Tash actually quite regularly. He's a bit of a boyo. I wouldn't like to get into an altercation with him, is what I'm saying. And I wonder if that's maybe why there is a bit of a disconnect between him and the club. I don't know, because I don't think he gets spoken about enough. This is a guy that only played for us and continued to do so even during the dark times. So maybe there's something I'm not aware of. But yeah, for me, Gary Kelly, one club man, and a fantastic footballer. And again, you know, didn't shirt no challenges, Leeds through and through, and like I say, still doing his bit, supporting the club today, you know.
Yeah, that's typical of he's sort of typical of a Leeds player that just the fans instantly love, because he's tough in the tackle. He won't so he won't I'm trying to think of a way of saying this without swearing. He won't like back out of a challenge. And as long as he's trying his hardest and also playing very good football as well, Leeds fans love that sort of stuff. And somebody who goes in and makes a tough tackle, the whole crowd goes up for it, don't they? And you see that now, even Ethan Ampadu goes right through someone, gets the ball, the whole crowd goes, yeah, come on, get into him. It's just like a proper crowd raiser. And I can imagine,
obviously related to Ian Hart as well, uncle, Ian Hart's uncle as well. And it's funny you mention about the appearances that Charlton had. Just looking, 431 appearances, one club man, and it just again shows how big Charlton's were in comparison, really. But even still, you know, for him to make almost, you know, 500
it's still a lot, isn't it? It's still a lot.
It's insane,
it's incredible to make that many appearances, and it's like you say, it doesn't really happen anymore because of injuries and stuff. There seems to be so many more injuries now, but maybe players back then were just sort of playing through it all and getting injections in the knees and legs and stuff and just going, yeah, let's just still go out there and play. A bit like what Dallas had been doing for that whole time until he broke his leg. He apparently just been injured nearly every week and just played anyway and played that well. So yeah. So you do get some gems like that still now, don't you? Like a Stuart Dallas, obviously, before he got injured, and players where you just think they are just going to put their all in every single time, and they will try their absolute best to play for the club, and that's all you can ask.
It was an honour to put on the shirt for Gary Kelly. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's what it should be, shouldn't it? I mean, 100%. Joe always says to me he would crawl on broken glass to play at Elland Road. So when somebody is like, not wanting to play or doing something, he's like, I can't possibly fathom how they would do that, because it would be such an honor to put on that shirt. And some players do treat it like that, and they're the ones where you go, do you know what, fair play, and that's when they get loved by the fans.
100%.
Right, let's go for your central midfielders then. It doesn't really matter which way around, does it? So just which one of your central midfielders you want to go for first?
They're both similar, really, to be honest. Just both from different eras, but both players that just I really, really like, and just scream Leeds United to me. First one, I'll go with Calvin Phillips. I just love Calvin. I think, for me, is the epitome of the Bielsa era. And a lot of people will know that's my favourite time, even over the champ. Maybe because I was going to games then, when I grew up, when we were in the Champions League and stuff, we didn't have much money. I never got to go to Elland Road. It was something that, take you for your birthday and all that, and it never happened, you know what I mean? And it is what it is. So for me to be going at the time and then to see what Bielsa did with him, how he is as a person, I just love Calvin. He can do no wrong for me. So even when he's still getting stick now, he's just a lovely lad. He's a lovely lad. He can do no wrong, and he's a top player. The mad thing is, a lot of us were ready to farm him off. Of that group that came through, your Byrams, your Taylors, your Cooks, he was the one that felt that wouldn't make it. I mean, even Chris Dawson, who ended up playing non-league or something at the time, I'm thinking, Phillips was below all of these, and then he's the one that ended up going to City. And
he thought of it. I know he's spoken in interviews, hasn't he, and said he thought of himself as like a number 8 box-to-box midfielder, and probably even a number 10 sometimes getting forward. And he was like, I scored a few goals in the season before Bielsa came in, but he wasn't anything special in particular, was he, to be honest? When you actually think about it, at the time, everyone was like, take him or leave him. But that's the genius of Bielsa summed up in one player, isn't it? Because he changed his position, changed his whole attitude and outlook, retaught him how to play football, and then he England's player of the tournament in the Euros where we got to the final.
That's what I'm saying.
Unbelievable.
It's like the season before under Thomas Christensen, like you said, he was almost playing a 10. He was getting ahead of the striker. He was scoring goals. I remember he scored a goal early parts of the season, and then, like you say, I think he does an interview where Bielsa came in and didn't know the players' names, but just told them the numbers and went round and went number 6. And he was like, are you sure?
Yeah.
And look what he did, So, Calvin Phillips has to go in for me just because.
Yeah, I love Calvin Phillips. You're the first person who's gone for him, actually. And, and I absolutely love him. You can't see it on camera now, but I've got his signed shirt up in my background there. I just love him. My favourite player in recent years.
Maybe they still saw. Maybe they
I think Jer and Lockie both said that he nearly got in. Right. Yeah, special mention. He nearly got in, but I know if I did my team, he'd certainly be in there because I just love him, and I just love that holding midfielder role. Somebody who it's literally why Ethan Ampadu's now my favourite player at Leeds at the moment, because somebody who tackles tough, who wins the ball, and then capable of spraying passes everywhere. I love watching that. I love watching the ball, you just see the ball just float over to the wing and just drop right at a winger's feet, and you're like, oh, that is just lovely. And he was capable of doing that so 100%. Well.
Yeah,
he showed us as well, though, actually, that he still had because in the Euros he wasn't really playing as a holding midfielder or a lone holding midfielder, was he? He was getting forward, and the way he got that assist against Croatia and stuff, he was playing as if he was playing before Bielsa, but obviously all the tools he's given him have allowed him to become a better all-round footballer. And I love Calvin Phillips, so for me that's a great choice.
Yeah. Another player who I equally love as much, which and again very similar, and a guy that's a bit of an enigma because he hates football, but it's David Batty.
I knew you were going to say before you even said about hating football. I just had a feeling who you were going to be on about here.
Very, very similar and quite, I mean, I don't think anyone's getting, if we decide to play a low block at any point, I don't think anyone's getting past us.
No.
With them two in front of that back four. But David Batty for me, I'll tell quite a funny story. When we were at junior school, we used to play football on lunch break, and I used to always be David Batty, right? And this is when obviously all my mates were Man United fans. You had a few Liverpool fans. It was very rare they were Leeds fans. The only Leeds fans were ones who's had it passed down from their dads or whatever. But everyone wanted to be Man United fans or Liverpool fans at that time. And anyway, David Batty played for Leeds, and we used to pretend to be certain players, and I used to do his signature. It's so funny because I used to do it, right? I said, I'll be Batty, I'm Batty, I can do his signature as well. And I used to do this D, right? It won't work. I'll have to send you a picture so you can maybe put it up. But it was like a D, a B, A, without the line, you see, then a T and a Y, and the Y I would bring down and use as the line for the A and the two T's. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So and it always just stuck with me that it's quite funny.
It's what you do as a kid, isn't it? You just everybody's goes, oh, I'm going to be this player, I'm going to be this player.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when you're in the playground going, oh yeah, I'm going to be.
I'll do his signature as well.
Yeah.
But David, I mean, he won the Premier League with Blackburn as well. A Premier League winner. Played at Newcastle, had 2 stints at Leeds United. I was thinking about it on the way over, saying, I have to get him in there because, I really enjoy what he does. But then I thought about the time he missed that penalty for England, and then I started to think, that mustn't have bothered him at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone else would be cut up about it. Yeah. He's probably just gone home and gone, I'm not asked. Do you know what I mean? The whole nation's no.
Get the kettle on, we'll have a brew.
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about that.
Yeah. But like I say, them two are Yorkshire, born and bred, playing in a similar position. I just think as a pair, maybe it won't work on the football field. Maybe the two.
I think it would.
Yeah, you think it would be all right?
I think it would. I think it's not like Calvin's got the passing ability, even if Batty isn't as good at that. Calvin's the one who can distribute the ball and stuff. But I think Batty's worth the shout just because of that reducer he put on Ronaldo when he
exactly.
when he
There's
came
one
to
where
Ellen Road.
He did on Mancini as well at Sampdoria, I think, where he got into it with him as well. So
Love somebody who can just go in and just nail someone, and then somebody who just nails someone and then just walks off whilst the rest of the team fights.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so he has to go in there for me.
Right. Okay. Let's go for your left midfielder then.
I think a lot of people would put this guy in if he didn't do what he did. I don't even like to speak on his name. You know who I'm probably thinking about, the Australian. So I've gone for Eddie Gray. Eddie Gray streets ahead of the Australian anyway, but obviously when I was growing up, he was phenomenal. So anyway, but yeah, Eddie Gray. Eddie Gray's, we're playing a little bit higher than obviously Calvin and Batty, but Eddie Gray, we've all seen that goal that he scored against Burnley. I think, again, it's another player that when you're younger, you're not really aware of. You go back and you look and you see some of these goals. He's had a mural made of him. He's managed the football club. He's been coach at the football club. The fact that we have, Archie and Harry at the football club. We've had Andy. Eddie is Leeds. And I think, he would be in the majority of people's team. As you know, I'm doing sort of a top 10 Leeds players of all time, and he's right in there, if you know what I mean. So, he's he's someone that would play out on the left for me and, can create, can score goals, can do it all, basically. And as we say, he's Leeds through and through, mate. So I would have him off the left.
Yeah, obviously I never got to see him play, and you didn't either.
No.
But it's one of those things where it's just passed down, isn't it? How good Eddie Gray was. Well, how good all of that team were, but some people pick out Eddie Gray and say, do you know what? He was unbelievable. And again, in a time where it was it's so difficult to kick the ball even because it's so hard and dribble. Yeah, and it's so bobbly, and you see the footage of it now, and the ball's just like bobbling around all over the place, and they still manage to just to keep the ball. And it's those sort of things, isn't it? That's passed down through your family or through friends, and everyone
like you say,
says
can you imagine Eddie and putting him into and playing on the pitches that they play on today with the balls and the boots that they've got today? It just, it's crazy when you think about it. And that's when maybe sometimes, and I'm guilty of doing this, when we see the likes of Pele and Maradona and all this, and maybe we don't put them in the Ronaldo Messi category, but maybe they should be, because that has to be taken into consideration in the pitches, the standards they were playing in, even the football.
The only thing is, it's just impossible to know, isn't it? But you do feel like if they were that good at that time, and maybe you watch it and you look at do you know what I always think when that Maradona goal against England in the World World Cup '86 where he just the hand of God game, but the other one where he ran through the whole team is sort of widely regarded as one of the best goals of all time. The defending in that is honestly awful. Like when I've watched it back, and I think you look at it and you think these were the England players, and when you actually hear the names of the players they were supposed to all be brilliant, and they were just terrible at defending that. And obviously Messi's still done it today, but the pitch also has to come into consideration for the defenders as well, because I think if Maradona knows where he's going and it bobbles around, he's still going to be the one in control of that, whereas they're just going, oh my God, where's the ball going to go? So people say the defending was terrible back then, as well as the attacking being good or the attacking not being as good or whatever. But it's impossible to know. But I think, like you say, these boots nowadays, they get boots that weigh about 50 grams per boot or something ridiculous, and the balls are just fly. So you've got to think that somebody like Eddie Gray would have been unbelievable in today's football.
Yeah.
Who are you going for on your right-hand side?
I've gone for Pablo Hernandez.
I was thinking Joe's got to get Pablo in here. Where's he going to get him in? Oh, it'll have to be right mid, because it's got to be Pablo, hasn't it?
Yeah. So this is what I was saying about the three centre backs and having and then having a 10 and all this sort of stuff. But the guy who was going to be my centre back's actually playing up top alongside another player that's quite controversial. But
your centre back's playing up top.
Yeah. I'll tell
okay.
We'll
come on to that.
People of a certain age will know, but we'll come to
that. Yeah.
That's how I managed to get people in. But I've gone for Pablo Hernandez because, he again, even before the Bielsa era, the fact that we managed to get him, I don't know if it was, I can't remember which club it was at, Al Ahly or something like that.
It was in Qatar, wasn't it? It wasn't in Saudi Arabia.
Something like that. But obviously, he'd been at Swansea before under Gary Monk and had won the Carabao Cup, actually. It won't have been called that then. I don't know what it was then. Maybe Capital One or something. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah,
I think it's had so many names, hasn't it?
Yeah, so many, man. I remember it as the Coca-Cola Cup back in the day.
The Coca-Cola? Do you mean Coca-Cola?
Coca-Cola, yeah. Worthington's Coca-Cola Milk Cup. It's been all sorts. But yeah, so Pablo Hernandez came in that Gary Monk period where Leeds United started to get better. We had the likes of Bartley come in and others, Luke Ayling and co, and it did start to improve. And he was pivotal. I mean, if we think about that promotion season, the way Bielsa used him was perfect as well. He just drop him in towards the back end of the game and he'd go and win the game.
Cheat code.
And he was that good. I mean, come on, he could nutmeg a mermaid, as we all know. How many times did we see it?
That's been said in every episode so far, and I love it.
What about that? I forget which game it was, but he's got about 10 yards on a player and he still manages to nutmeg.
Yeah, it was a pass, wasn't it? That he just passes it into the box through a player's legs. And it's like, how's the
player not even done that, or he's seen that? I don't know. It's mad. So he was amazing, and I still see the Swansea goal, you know what I mean? And
it's got to be on it. I mean, that's what I said. I said on the other episode as well. I've got a print of that as well in my office of him with he had his shirt behind him as like a cape, didn't he? Because he took his shirt off and he couldn't quite get his out of his arms, and he was just so excited to celebrate. He's just waving it around behind him, and just unbelievable.
Arguably,
that was
last decade, probably the best player for Leeds United in the last decade, I would say.
Would you say that he's the best player since we got relegated in 2004?
Yeah, so you could take it. You could take it further than the last decade and just say, yeah, when we were since relegation, and even that's still going into the Premier League. I know a lot of people will say Rafinha, and I did consider him for this team, and he is amazing, and I'm not going to bemoan anyone who's got him in, but he wasn't here long enough for me. So, Pablo has to go in on the right just because of his longevity at the football club. Sticking around, he probably could have had offers elsewhere, probably did. And stuck with us for as long as he did. I'm a little bit. I mean, I was lucky enough to be at the game at West Brom when him and Berardi finished. I was lucky to be there. It wasn't the same because obviously COVID. There was hardly anybody in the ground. But
what a shame as well for that to be the way that they leave.
But this is the thing, Max. People are going to get promotion this year. I stand by that. I think we're going to go up, and people will get to experience what they should have when we went up last time. And I just hope the club maybe do something with those that didn't get to experience it. Bring the likes of Pablo and Cole back, Clicky back, even just to celebrate that moment. Because, it'd be nice when they all did deserve.
It doesn't take much, does it? It just takes an invite, and then they all just. I mean, we saw it the other week, didn't we? I think there was a load of legends on the pitch, wasn't there, in suits and stuff, because they were all doing hospitality or something. Mm-hmm. A lot of ex-players, it's just nice for the fans to see that, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
So Pablo, for me, one of the best. One of the best to do it in a Leeds shirt in the whole, say, EFL era.
Yeah.
It's a shame, isn't it, that it didn't happen.
One of the best EFL players of all time as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Definitely.
And the moments that he provided, because it's not about just his overall statistics like goals and assists compared to appearances, is it? It's the importance of those when he scored them in big moments and stuff. And it's like, and it's not comparing him to, because it's a completely different situation, but like somebody like Drogba, when you actually look at the sheer amount of goals, he didn't really score as many as a Henry or a Shearer or whatever, but he's still in that bracket because of when he scored those goals. He was a big game player, Drogba. Pablo was a big game player, is what I describe it as. Even though most of these were just league season games, but he had to do something to get us across the line, and he did it nearly every time.
We don't get promoted if it weren't for him in that second season, because he was that pivotal.
Because the amount of times he came off the bench and did something, if we didn't have him on the bench, nobody else is going to do that.
Exactly, and there's the West Brom goal. I remember the first goal of the second season under Bristol City, against Bristol City, where it just calmed everyone down, because we were wondering, will there be a hangover from last season? And we beat them 3-1, and Pablo bends one in from edge of the box, I think left foot, and I'm like, we're going to be all right again, So he's class, absolutely class.
El Macho.
Yes, definitely.
It's right. Okay, the exciting positions, the two strikers.
Yeah, this is going to. I feel that one of them's going to really upset people, so that's fine. And I'll explain my reasonings for it. And the other one is just, for me, one of the greatest players of all time. I mean, I've never seen this guy play, but I know a bit about him. He's Welsh international John Charles. Played at Leeds United and Juve. Could play centre-back or striker. That's both to a sufficient level. The first, I mean, I think he scored.
That is a utility player, isn't it?
100%.
Imagine having someone like that now.
I know, he was massive as well, and he scored a hell of a lot of goals at Juve. I think as well at that time it wasn't normal for players to move, especially to different countries. Any Welsh fans might tell me, I mean, I know Gareth Bale will be up there, but he's probably regarded as one of, if not the best Welsh player of all time.
He was regarded as one of the best British players of all time.
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
I know that a lot of people have just said he was one of the best players in the world.
One of the main reasons he really stuck out to me, because like I say, I remember being in year 7, right? It was in year 7 in Salisbury Bridge High, and we had to create, like, it was the first time I'd properly used a computer, bro. Right. And we were in ICT. right? Didn't have much growing up. So, like I say, we didn't have like.
Oh, I just thought you were just that old.
Do you know what though? ICT was pretty new though. ICT was pretty new when I was in secondary school. I can't lie to you, bro. So I couldn't believe it when we were doing this. Anyway, we had to create something, and I did a Leeds thing using Wikipedia and that. Like I say, growing up, junior school, I just love football. I liked playing it. I like playing FIFA. I like playing LMA Manager. I listen to Leeds on the radio, all this sort of stuff. But then as you get older, you really start to get into it, don't you? And really start to learn things that you're oblivious to. So anyway, I had to do this like project on Leeds United and use clip art and word art, and I'm putting it up. And John Charles was someone that I really sort of like deep dived in because he never got a yellow card in his career, ever.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
Striker, yeah, they call him Gentle John. Gentle John Charles. So for him to play for Leeds United, score as many goals, be as pivotal as he was, to then go to Juve, do the same, he's still massively regarded over there as well. I think me and Andrea were chatting about him before, and he's still regarded way up there. So he has to go in there, and as I said, that was my and ahhing. Do I put him in the back three with Radaby and Charlton,
right? Okay.
Or do I play him up top? And I said, you know what, I'll put him up top. And yeah, so he's going to go in there for me for sure.
Yeah, good shout. Yeah, I know a lot of people have said to me, and I think I've got some fans of a Welsh persuasion, shall we say, on my channel who've said that he was absolutely unbelievable, and the fact that he could play centre back and striker is just
mad.
Doesn't happen anymore, does it? That sort of thing. It's a completely different time, but and he could absolutely whack a ball as well, couldn't he? I've seen some clips of him just nearly taking the net off, and just
I'm just having a look now, mate. I'm just seeing so he scored 157 goals for Leeds and then 108 for Juve. Then went to play for Roma, Cardiff, Hereford, and finished his career at Merthyr Tydfil. So he played over 700 games, and 370 goals for a guy that could play more
centre back as
position.
well. Yeah,
and like you say, that doesn't happen today. If we see, I don't know, Ten Hag put Maguire up in one of the games more recently, we're all like, oh, he ain't got a Scooby-Doo, whereas this guy would go, hey, I'll go up top, don't worry about it.
Yeah, or if you're winning a game, you're trying to protect a lead, you don't even have to make a substitution to go defensive. You can just go, right, come back now.
And to not get a yellow card as well, bro, is insane.
Yeah, that is unbelievable, isn't it?
Unbelievable. Just shows though for me, when
it's in 737 games.
Yeah. The mad thing is as well, what it shows me is he knows how to read the game, because I remember even myself, I played fullback, and they would always say, stay on your feet, don't go to ground. Because if you do, you're allowing, and he obviously was able to read the game that well that he was able to just take the ball away from people without getting him. Look at Firpo. Firpo always leaves himself where he has to make a challenge that means he brings them down and gets a yellow card.
But if you sort out your positioning and your body shape, and you
try
and push them into a certain area, like I'm dancing there. But if you push them into a certain area and shield them away, then you can't. You don't have to make that challenge. But also as well, the way I've never had a yellow card in amateur football, and I used to, sometimes I would nearly snap people in two, but I just got up afterwards oh, sorry about that, mate, and pulled them back to their feet and be like, even though I definitely did it on purpose because I was frustrated, I'd absolutely nail someone and then go, oh, sorry about that, mate, and then help them back up again and then the ref is like, oh, he hasn't done it on purpose, but I definitely did.
And the mad thing is, first British player to play in Italy as well. So that shows you is a bit of he was way ahead of his time. This is what I mean.
Yeah.
He has to go in there for me.
Yeah. Sure. So who is the last position, your other striker then?
It's really controversial.
Yeah, is this the controversial one?
Yeah. It's Alan Smith.
Well, you'll be happy to know that Lockie chose Alan Smith in his midfield, and he didn't get too many pelters because, and we did clarify this, that we're just talking about their time at Leeds United. We have to pretend that nothing else happened afterwards, other than a certain Australian, which we don't make that exception for. But everybody else, even if they did go and play for Scum and stuff, we just talk about you're putting yourself in the position of whilst they're playing still, and you don't know that they're going to leave and go to Scum or whatever. So it's fair enough because of what a player he was.
He didn't want to go. If Leeds United weren't run like an absolute shit show, he probably wouldn't have gone. Yeah. You know, Alex Ferguson's on record as saying, I knew I'd have never been able to get this lad. I wanted him, but he knew not even to entertain the conversation because it was never going to happen. Now, of course, Leeds United got relegated and all that sort of stuff. I know Leeds fans, we can't forgive and all that, but for me, and I'll explain my reasoning for him to come in. He was a young lad. You know, he was... Some of the lads in my year at junior school fancied him. Oh, Alan Smith. Do you know what I mean? He had that sort of aura, right? He had that sort of aura. I'm thinking, you know, your Michael Owens at Liverpool. They had all their star players. You know, I'm talking about the centre-backs with Radaby. They had all their star players. Well, I felt that Alan Smith was that for us. This young lad that came on against Liverpool. Scored on his debut and you know, with the curtains, the blonde hair, which was very vibesy back then, you know. It's just, I don't know, I sound like I'm in love with him, aren't I? But
no, but this is what Lockie said as well, and it's what I agreed with. When you're growing up, you kind of look at the players, and when you don't know too much about football, or you don't,
exactly,
And when I'm in a similar situation to you, to be honest. I live quite far away from Leeds, and we didn't really ever go to games because obviously if you're a kid and your parents aren't going to take you, then you can't go. It's not that they wouldn't, but it's just certain situations like what you said. And it's can be quite an expensive day out, can't it? Going to see the football and whatever, especially with like a whole family, and also not really having Sky Sports and stuff, and kind of having to live through listening to them on the radio or seeing pictures of them or in the FA Cup when they're actually on BBC or ITV or whatever. And I remember I said to Lockie, I think I remember Luke Varney chipping the goalkeeper when we beat Spurs and Gareth Bale in the background and stuff. And I thought Luke Varney was a dead good player because he chipped the goalkeeper and it was actually a really good goal. But you kind of have to live off those little moments.
He was on bench. No. He didn't quite make it into this. But, but I get it though. I do.
Yeah. Coming around to the point is that you kind of live off like how coolly players were, or what they looked like, or like looking at Becchio when he had his hair slicked back Argentinian. You think, oh, he's cool. And they're the sort of players that you. So I get what you mean. You're not just like saying that he was handsome for no reason. It's it's like just, when the players are cool, it's like, oh yeah, he's the one.
And I think when a product from your academy comes through, it's a totally different vibe, you know. And for him to come in the Premier League, like I say, and sort of burst onto the scene, and he loved the challenge, and he loved Leeds United, you know. And I know people will disagree because he went over there, but he played like he meant it, you know, and maybe he was a little bit too hothead at time, but that's because he loved the football club, you know what I mean? And I think people said he would. I think some said he was a Liverpool fan growing up or whatever. But for me, when I seen him play for Leeds United, it looked like, you know, it came across that he meant it. He was a young lad, and was quality as well, and knew where the back of the net was. Do you know what I mean? And so it is controversial, but for me, I think it goes up there. You've got the big, gentle giant up top. You know what I mean? Knocking him down for young Alan Smith to get in.
Playing off him,
and getting them two as a partnership. It would be a bit like the Dukes and Smith, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that would be my 11, and I'd be very, very happy with it, mate.
It's an unbelievable really 11, to be fair. I think the thing that somebody put in the comments, and we started doing this now, is asking you who you think would captain that side, which is always an interesting discussion because when you get to pick through so many good players and you put them in your 11, and then I like to spring this on you rather than get you to prep for it, because then you have to think about how good of a leader a lot of those players were. You've got Lucas Radaby, you've got John Charles, you've got Calvin Phillips. There's so many good players in there that could be a captain.
I would love to give it John Charles, but because he doesn't have that bite in him with the no yellow cards, I'm going to go Charlton. I'm going to go give it Jack, because I think Jack would be the one. And as you said, you know, we're thinking about when they played for Leeds, so Smith, youngster, he'd take care of the likes of Smith and Calvin. You know what I mean? He wouldn't have to worry about your batties. Maybe Pablo and Gray get kicked, and Charlton would be the one that would go up and be like, you know, giving it back kind of vibe. So I think out of that, I would go Jack Charlton. Hart on set pieces. I think, you know, I don't know if you do manager, but there's only one man for me. It'd be Marcelo. Marcelo would manage that.
So yeah, I was gonna say. So
sorry.
No, it's fine. I was literally going to say, there's no point asking you who your favorite manager is because I know it's Bielsa, but it's like you that would manage this team. And so Jer and Lockie just said how. So obviously you've picked your formation and your players, and then you get to say how they play. And obviously we don't need to go into massive amounts of detail, but Lockie and Jer had said that they're solid at the back, which you are very solid at the back. And then the attacking players that you've got, I think, would just run wild, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and I think as well, Kelly and Hart both have license to get forward because you've got Calvin and Batty who could just fill in. As we see, you know, many DMs doing in this day and age, and to be honest, Kelly get forward, meaning Pablo can come into the 10 role when needed and combine
come inside and then overlap
exactly.
I think it would all work well. Yeah,
it would. And if I'm the manager, I'd have Bielsa as my number 2 then.
Have him as your assistant. I'm not sure he'd want to be an assistant.
It is what it is. He ain't got a choice. I'm paying his wages.
Yeah, unbelievable team. And obviously everybody will see that on the screen right now. Like I say, absolutely unbelievable team from Joe there. Would be winning titles and trophies, I'm sure of it. If you've watching me and you don't know who Joe is, then something's clearly wrong. But just on the off chance, his name at Just Joe Football Show is in the title and the description for you to click on and go and subscribe over there. He's nearly at 30k now or something like that. Or
we're on the road. We're on 25, just past 25. 26 will be next. But yeah, I want to get 30k by the end of the year, mate.
Yeah, it won't be long. It won't be long now. But yeah, like I say, go over to Joe's channel. Plenty of live streams, plenty of pre-records, plenty of content around all the games and through the international break as well. So look out for that on Joe's channel. Thanks for joining me, Joe. Really appreciate it.
Really, and do you know what? I've really enjoyed it. Sorry, Max, just to say I've really enjoyed it. It's a great idea, and it's nice to not have to be the one leading and get asked questions. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it, bro. It was nice.
Everybody said that they've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed it every time. So it's it's just nice to talk about Leeds and not be talking about what we're currently doing and stressing about the next game and stuff. Just talking about all the stuff that's in the past and has happened now, and we can just take those memories and enjoy them. If you have enjoyed this, please hit that like button down below, hit the subscribe button as well, as we're going to try to get to 10k by the end of the season. Big push for that. But yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for Joe to join me as well. And I'll see you next time on Leeds Lately.